Hey, what's up boys and girls? In today's video, I wanted to go back to the basics. Through all the years I have been in sales, I took for granted what I have learned along the way. This makes me forget that fundamentals matter. Specifically in sales, when you come across a buyer, there is little room for any errors. That is why I will talk today about B2B sales. What does it mean? How is it different from other sales activities? And what to focus on. I will highlight a couple of amazing companies that are doing extremely well. You will have those companies on top of your head. I hope today's video will clear out any inaccuracies in regards to B2B sales. And next time when we will be talking about it, you will be extremely well equipped to drive the conversation. So without further ado, let's dive in. There are so many different types of making business that actually you can be a little bit confused about what is B2B, what is B2B2C, like what is B2C. Like, you know that they exist because you are there, you are making those decisions, you're making those purchases, and you're also selling. So something that I was really thinking about for a long time is to explain the meaning of B2B sales. What does it exactly mean? What does it entitle? What you need to take into consideration when thinking about B2B is actually the thing that I'm doing every day is B2B. How is it different from a guy that actually works at Best Buy, or how is it different at a guy that works at the McDonald's? It's still sales, right? So you could think, yep, it's the exactly same thing. You are going through the same idea. You need to sell something to gain revenue, but I can assure you it is a little bit different from a consumer business. It is also different from partnerships, and it is also different from those kind of more chainy type of sales, which is like B2B2C or even B2C or C2C. So the dynamics, the need, the drive behind making a purchase for B2B, B2C, C2C is way different. And when you're conducting sales in B2B, you also need to think about how does it impact the whole business. So something that I would like you to gain from this video is to think about sales as a still transaction between people. But those people, contrary to consumers, have completely different motives. They have completely different needs in terms of the transaction and your product or service that you're offering. Let's start from the beginning. B2B meaning and B2B acronym. So the B2B acronym stands for business to business. This is about a transaction between a company and a company. And you might think, like, how is it possible? Like, are there many of those out there? Are those businesses actually buying? And I can assure you they do. And I will go through a couple of examples that probably you know. Slack, like Salesforce, those are businesses that offer services to businesses to fulfill a promise, to fulfill a need, and to solve a pain point of other company. We will go a little bit deeper with those elements at the end of the video. So if you think about selling in this kind of B2B chain, you need to think about the specific need of a company and people behind this company. So when thinking about selling a product from a business to a business, you still are fulfilling a need of a group of certain people. So you're solving a problem for them. So for example, if you sell furniture to companies, like desks, like sofas, the ones that you actually see around in the office, like not nowadays, because we are not in the office, unfortunately, but in a couple of months, when you will be back in the office, you will see those new shiny desks and all those sofas. There is also a transaction, B2B transaction behind it. So all of those different types of making transactions, if it's B2C or B2B, they all have a different dynamics and require a little bit different approach to their customers. So in terms of B2B, if your company is thinking about being very successful, you have to focus on strong customer support and service. And on top of that, you also need to think about how much value you can create for your desired customer, for your desired target customer. You need to think about how you can improve their performance by selling them and providing them your products or your services. So who is the typical B2B customer? Unlike with B2C customers, which are typical consumers like me and yourself, the B2B customer is a little bit harder to define because you need to think about the broader picture and a broader perspective. It's obvious that when you think about the customer for your business, it is a different business, another business. But it's a little bit harder to define and you need to approach it a little bit more strategically. So depending on your product, what you are selling, you need to think about the size, what kind of vertical they're coming from. Are they having customers of their own, or this is solely for their own internal purposes? What is the size of the company? Where is it based? Who are the decision makers in the company? Who is making those decisions at the end of the day? What is the decision-making chain? Who do you need to bring on board to convince them that your product is providing enough value that they really want to invest in you and purchase your product? So instead, and contrary to B2C, when you need to market directly to individuals, B2B is a little bit more complex and you need to think about it a little bit more strategically. So making a valid purchasing decision, the decision maker needs to think about the bigger picture. He's not only buying the product for himself, but actually to fulfill a specific need of their company. So your product will aim a specific pain point in the organization, and to be able to sell your product that will solve their problems, you need to think about the whole small chain of interactions. And also you need to think if this is the right organization that you want to sell your product to. So now we covered a little bit about the basics around B2B, and I hope that B2B as an acronym is already clear for you. So it's a transaction between two businesses. So now let's take a look at some of the companies that you probably already know, but these fall directly into B2B category, and they are very successful B2B companies, so they're making a lot of B2B sales from the environment that you probably have noticed, you've seen, and most probably you heard in the news. So let's dive right in. The first company on the list, probably you know them, it's called Slack. Yes, this is the company enterprise communicator that almost all of the companies out there, almost all businesses, tech, high-tech, sales, all those dynamic ones are using Slack every day. You can even find Slack in accountancy firms, small accountancy firms that you wouldn't expect that they might use, but because it's very easy to implement, it's very easy to adapt, this has been storming businesses since the very first day. So Slack is filling in the gap for internal online communicators, for people that work remotely to come together to communicate through text. Second company that you know, and it's a kind of a love and hate relationship, it is Zoom, video communication tool. Again, this is a business tool that is aimed at businesses to communicate externally, create webinars, create one-on-one meetings, create group meetings with companies. But during the last year, people started using it also personally to communicate with their loved ones that they miss dearly, like your parents or your aunts that you haven't seen because we've been under lockdown. So Zoom was doing extremely well, and they helped to cover the additional gap that has been created with work from home, with restrictions and lockdowns across the globe. The third one is my favorite. It's called MailChimp. It's a tool to distribute email communication to your customers. So whenever you receive an email from your favorite restaurant, or you are buying something on Amazon or eBay, you always receive an email to your mailbox about making a transaction, about the current promotions, whatever is the case, they need to use the email providers. So this is also strictly aimed. A business like MailChimp is delivering a service that is fulfilling a specific need that typical organization will not handle because they are not experts in maintaining email systems. So this is the kind of niche that they went into, and obviously you can find much more of those companies out there, but definitely it's the one system, one platform that does stand out. Next up, social media tool called Buffer. So what they do is basically they aggregate your different social media accounts, and you can communicate with your customers through different marketing channels, through social media in one place. This is the service that Buffer is providing to other businesses, which is fulfilling the specific need of increasing performance of the social media teams that will enable them to send more communication, to be more personal and all. So this is Buffer. Next up, my favorite, Not really. Salesforce. Yes, Salesforce is one of those brands in the tech industry that has been growing and growing exponentially over time. All companies, small and big, need a CRM and ERP system that they can integrate with other different systems. Salesforce currently is a big database that you can connect different services to it from each and every angle. So you can connect like Slacks, you can connect MailChimps, you can connect everything into Salesforce to make it a huge hub of information, and then you can run analysis. You can also trigger different workflows from there. So it's a huge company that is extremely successful. They have offices all around the world. And yes, this is a perfect example of a B2B business. Next up, LinkedIn. Yes, you might think, what LinkedIn? But it's a social media that I'm using every day. It is a social media platform for professionals. It grew up as a recruitment platform for businesses. So every interaction that you do, your CV, your resume, your experience, everything that you put into the system is actually being viewed and analyzed by companies to search and find their future employees. Now, obviously, they're also growing the other part of their business, which is focused about Sales Navigator, which is aimed at helping out sales team to perform even better, to find their new prospects among all those 700 million different professionals that already sign up. And you can check out the article about LinkedIn right here. Yep, and basically this is it. This is those few companies that I really wanted to bring your attention to, their profile that perfectly outlines how an amazing B2B sales and a B2B service or a team means. So whenever you think about B2B, think about those examples that I just mentioned to you. So folks, this is it. So like, subscribe, and if you want to be notified about the next video, smash the notification ring button so I will be able to notify you when my next video is up. Thank you guys, and see you in the next video.